what we're going to be doing in this particular webinar is addressing three main points. So this is hopefully the first of many webinars that we'll be running for free. So this is the Getting into Dentistry Part 1. Now, in this particular webinar, what we'll be talking about is the UCAS applications, personal statements, and dentistry work experience. Obviously, this is a crazy time for us at the moment. We are living in very unprecedented circumstances with COVID-19 flying around. So ultimately, this presentation is designed for individuals who are planning to study dentistry at university as 2021 applicants, and give everyone more information about the pathway, and also talk to you about why we established this organization. So it's going to be a fairly lengthy webinar, but I'm sure that like many of you, you're excited to hear what we're about, and also the information that we'll be giving, because we've got a fantastic panel of really valuable and really ambitious students who will be able to share so much knowledge and so much information. It's really something that I wish I had when I was applying, really, and I think I echo that on behalf of the team as well. So I think we've pretty much got almost 100 people now who have signed up and are on board tonight. So I'm going to start making my way through the presentation. So my name is Kalpesh. I am a qualified dentist based in the Midlands. I graduated from Liverpool Dental School in 2016, and I currently work in a couple of private practices as a general and cosmetic dentist, and also I work part-time on the bank at the dental hospital in Birmingham under the oral surgery department. So I've got quite a varied role, and I also have a very big passion for education. And this is actually my 5th book that I've written. So I've done quite a few different educational pursuits, but this is something that I'm really passionate and excited about. So this is our first webinar, hopefully of a series of free webinars that we'll be hosting. And this is to do with those individuals who are planning to apply to dentistry as 2021 applicants. In this particular webinar, what we're going to be covering is the UCAS application, the personal statement, and dentistry work experience. So I'm going to enlarge the screen and get started with the presentation. As I mentioned before, we've got a very ambitious and very keen team of students who are helping us as well. Now, in this particular presentation, we're going to be covering why we established the organization, information on the UCAS application, essential checklists, things that you really need to know, key information, the dentistry personal statements, the ideal structure, how to master this, and how to make your statement really stand out, because we know that the dentistry personal statement is a really valuable and really important part of the application process. We're also going to be covering dentistry work experience and how to maximize your time at home at the moment. Obviously, with COVID-19 going on at the moment, unfortunately, many dental clinics around, well, almost all dental clinics around the country, apart from the other dental centers, are closed. And as a result of that, many of you have unfortunately had your work experience cancelled. And as a result of that, you know, we've got various things that you can do at home, and things that we've created as well as part of the I Want to Be a Dentist website that we're really excited to share with you as well. And there's also things on manual dexterity. I think that's a really common question that we'll be covering as well. And there's also graduate entry. We've got a lot of graduates who've signed up today as well. And as a result of that, what we're going to be doing is talking about that as well. I've just noticed that the poll's on the screen, so I'm just going to remove that. Bear with me. you'd have to forgive me. This is the first webinar that I'm actually hosting. So if there's a few hiccups, then we'll improve them for the next one. Okay, so the other things that we're going to be talking about as well is the non-conventional routes. So these are effectively different forms of entering into dental school. So typically we talk about individuals having sort of A-levels and the traditional routes, but there's obviously lots of other routes that we'll be shedding some light on as well. And at the end, we'll be also talking about questions that you have that people are putting in the chat box, and answering those questions as well. So who are we? I know that many people have signed up for this webinar via our mailing list and probably through Instagram as well. And we are effectively a national team of dentistry students, both current and former. The two individuals highlighted in the box there, that's myself and Raza. Raza is a student to be at Leeds Dental Institute. And it's actually quite interesting how we both sort of founded the organization. It was actually, Raza's actually an optical assistant, and I went for an eye test, and Raza actually was examining my eyes, and he asked me, "You're a doctor, so are you dental or are you medical?" And we got talking, and later on, he came to the surgery, shadowed me, and we sort of I helped him out a little bit with some questions and preparing for the interview, and then fortunately he managed to gain a dentistry offer, which was fantastic. And then we sort of were talking at the start of the lockdown situation, and we were like, do you know what, this would be fantastic if we could create a really useful resource to help other students just like yourself. And I think that's where the birth of this really came from. And then without the help of those people who are pictured there and many others, we are really a national team of students around the country who are like-minded. We're putting our heads together to create really innovative resources to help individuals who are planning to apply for dentistry. So what are we about really? So, well, we're about helping those people who wish to study dentistry at university. We understand as people who have been in your situation, the difficulties that you can sometimes face, sometimes how lonely it can be, and in addition, how sometimes difficult it can be. And as a result of that, what we want to do is put something together which would be a really useful and really valuable resource which you can use. And the majority of our website, when it does come out, I know we've had lots of questions, will be free. So therefore, a lot of the information is very valuable and is for free. The way that we're different to other organizations, I know you may be aware that there's other organizations that help medics predominantly. We are, we're based and we're sort of, we're designed and developed by dentistry students around the country. So we have a very, very specific expertise in that particular region, whereby we are really, really aware of the process. We're aware of what's current, and therefore we feel that we're able to really be high with our quality and be versatile and innovative in ways in which we go about helping you. In addition to that, there's various services that we run, and we'll be discussing some of those later. But for instance, before the interview, so in this situation at the moment, we've got things like the dentistry experience course, which Catherine, one of the team members, will be talking about, as well as other services such as the UCAS help, personal statement reviews, UCAT services such as online courses, tuition, and classroom lessons as well. And then in addition to that, when it comes to the interview, we've also got other packages such as the online dentistry interview course, interview mentoring, and also various day courses that we'll be running based on different locations around the UK as well. Okay. And not to forget, we've also got a book coming out and we've got a sign-up list there. So at the moment, we're just finalizing the last few bits of that, and we're really excited to be able to launch that. It's a book which is targeted at undergraduates and postgraduates. It's something which can contain loads of information regarding every step of your journey. And this includes personal statement advice, UCAT and BMAT advice, access for individuals who may come into dentistry through different routes. So for instance, the widening participation schemes and access schemes as well. And obviously it contains typical interview questions that you may expect at dental school interview. So there's lots of information in there that we've curated and put together. Now there is a code there. So if you've got a smartphone or a tablet at the moment, you can just open that up into the camera. And if you hover over that, this will actually open up a link that you can get 50% off the book. So if you want to just get that link now, I'm just going to hold it on this screen for a couple of seconds. So you can scan that now. Fantastic. Okay. So hopefully you've taken a little picture of that and it's worked. So I'm going to pass it over now to Raza. Raza Ahmed, he is the other co-founder. He's going to be talking about dentistry UCAS. So can I get you to unmute yourself, Raza, and
sure.
show your face?
Hello, everybody. My name is Raza. Like Cal mentioned, I'm the co-founder of I Want to Be a Dentist. So Cal gave you a little background story of how we actually came to form this whole organization with the website and everything. So today I'm just going to be talking about dentistry UCAS and some of the main important aspects, just having gone through the process this year myself. So I'm due to start at the University of Leeds for dental surgery this coming September. So I'm a fairly recent applicant myself. So I thought it might be useful for me to take on this section and share all the advice I've gathered during my gap year as well, when I reapplied for dentistry. So we'll start off with the deadlines. So the most important dates that you possibly need to know is the UCAS submission date for your actual application. So the UCAS date is the 15th of October 2020. That's not going to change regardless of what the situation is with COVID-19. That date is still going to stand. Moving on, there are some supporting assessments that you're going to need to do in order for your application to be considered by every dental school. You'll either have to sit the UCAT, the BMAT, or the GAM SAT if you're a postgrad. Now there's some important dates that you need to know of about the UCAT and BMAT. So I'll just go over those really quickly. So with the BMAT date, you have a September and a November sitting. So 22nd June 2020, the registration would open for you to register for the BMAT. So I'd highly suggest make a note of that date. So that's 22nd June. And on the 9th of August, the registration will actually close. So just be aware of that for that particular sitting. And 5th of September is the test date for the BMAT. Now, the difference between the September and the November sitting, many people have that question, is with the September sitting, you'll have your BMAT results before you've actually submitted your UCAS application. So that, because the only university which considers a BMAT for dentistry is just Leeds. So you might want to just open up your application, open up your pathways. If you are looking to just sit the BMAT, you might also want to register for the UCAT as well, which is another test that is mostly considered by dental schools. There's only one dental school, which is Leeds, who considers the BMAT. Now, of course, because of the COVID situation, the UCAT teams are still deciding and finalizing the dates of the registration, etc. Well, as well as maybe give the UCAT official or follow on Twitter. So they'll affect your action in many ways. These results from the UCAT or the BMAT or the SAT, which has a deadline of Wednesday, 9th September. It's actually for postgraduates. So I'd highly suggest with these applications, when you're doing the BMAT and UCAT, consider your options holistically. Don't limit yourself just to one university. Because often, as we all know, dentistry is very competitive. And I would highly suggest that you go out there, you research which universities you want to apply to as well, and which sporting assessments they will consider. Now, the UCAT and the BMAT, these are going to be the first set of results that the university judges. They do vary from year to year, but of course, when the results are released for this year's cohort, then I'd suggest you confirm with the universities that you want to apply for, and look at their cutoff dates. Now, with predicted grades and reference, this is sporting evidence which goes alongside your UCAS application. Now, predicted grades essentially are what your teachers and or your personal tutors, if you're applying privately, might think you're going to get. So I'd highly suggest to maximize that. You have to perform well in year 12, as well as in year 13 sporting assessments that you might have done. As well as they do look, chasing up teachers after school, knowing what you can do and how else you can improve your application. For moving swiftly on, just gonna look this. Okay, now in terms of knowing your criteria, there's certain universities which will only consider you if you have that set number of A-levels or GCSEs. Now, we do have a resource on this, which will later be shown in the slides, which you can use to select your universities and to maximize your chances of getting an offer from them. So certain universities, for example, will only consider you if you have 6 A's to 6 A stars at GCSEs, whereas other universities are a bit lenient, and there are other schemes which you can apply through if you are if you don't have the set standard fixed grades. And for the last point on this slide is selecting universities. Now, there's 6 factors which we have come up with at I Want to Be a Dentist, which is essentially location, course structure, opportunities, the BMAT and UCAT, success rate, and ranking. Now, with the location, firstly, you have to ask yourself before applying to university, are you a student which is willing to move out or willing to go to a university which is quite far away? As you know, dentistry is a competitive career, and it would be beneficial if you could open up your options. But if you really can't, then the university which is closest to you, and you to read through their application process thoroughly, just to maximize your chances. In terms of the course structure, many universities, they have different teaching styles with problem-based learning, evidence-based learning. Some universities, introduce clinical practice earlier on. University of Birmingham introduces it roughly about 4th year, 5th year. So, you might want to consider that as well. If you're really eager to get out there and do clinical practice in your first year, then it might be beneficial for you to choose your university that way. In terms of opportunities available, their universities have, at the end of the day, they do want to fill up the spaces. So they do have many widening participation schemes that you can apply through, which, for example, I know Leeds has the Access to Leeds scheme. University of Birmingham has the A to B scheme, Access to Birmingham, and there's many more, like Newcastle has it. So they do want to consider all participants from, different backgrounds. So make sure to make full opportunity of that. Not many people are aware, but there are schemes for people who, if nobody has gone to university from your family before, there's a scheme for that. And, if you've had free school meals at university, for example, at college, or, GCSEs, secondary school, So take full advantage of that. If you have been limited by your circumstances, universities will, consider that. They are lenient in terms of that. But at the end of the day, if you have to show your application in its best way to maximize your chances through your personal statement and predicted grades and references. So yeah, moving on to the UCAT and BMAT. So there's a range of steps that you need to consider before you even start to make your UCAS journey. So for step one, you really need to consider whether dentistry is the right career for you. Like I said before, it's highly competitive. There's about 10 applicants to about one place. So through your work experience, this is how you determine whether it's actually for you. We are in that situation where work experience isn't available, as it used to be. But internet is a wonderful thing. Go out there, have a research. There's plenty of resources out there, as well as some things that we are developing, so keep up to date. But you wanna portray, you wanna be there in the moment when you experience what dentistry is like. Don't just go in there because of family pressure, or if you've thought about it and you think this is an avenue you want to explore. Actually do it for yourself, because at the end of the day, it's long hours, high pressure, and being a dental student it's not going to be easy. So make sure to, there's many things that you could do to maximize your chances in this lockdown situation. In terms of manual dexterity as well, that's a big thing that universities look at in your interviews. So these are skills that you need to have in order to become a successful dentist. Also, entry criteria is a big one. Grades. If you have been limited by grades, and it's generally due to your ability, then maybe you might want to consider a postgraduate option, which you've actually developed your skills along the way and then applied through dentistry that way. Also, step two, the 6-factor assessment, which I previously went over. Speak to students. We've got a fantastic team of dentists around. Utilize our personal statement service as well, which we can actually review your personal statements. We're all dental applicants here, or the majority of us are. So of course, use that as well. And then step 3 is the BMAT and UCAT. Like I've said the dates, but of course, if you want further information on the BMAT and UCAT, the exact dates, do go on to admissions testing, which is a BMAT, and the UCAT website. And then you have the deadline, 15th October. It's all got to be done. You've got to package that off and then continue on to your next journey, which is your interviews, etc.
Okay, so I'm going to just touch on this one. So as we've just talked about, the UCAT does form quite a fundamental step in your application process. The UCAT effectively is the assessment that you would be taking prior to actually attaining an interview, and it forms one of the cornerstones of potentially getting you that interview. So ultimately, you have to be really, really productive and also very, very organized in your approach to gaining a place at dental school. And the first stage in that is securing an interview. So this slide is actually really interesting. It talks about how different universities around the UK utilize the UCAT. Now, the UCAT itself, in some universities, is one factor of many factors which is part of the sort of criteria that they use for recruiting at interview. But what I wanted to draw your attention to was actually there's various universities around the UK which actually place quite an importance on the UCAT. So for instance, Glasgow actually has a cutoff, and they utilize a average based upon the year of entry. So for 2019, you can see the cutoff score there. Now, there's other universities as well. So for instance, Queen Mary's University of London, if your score is below the 3rd decile, you'll not be offered an interview. Sheffield, they also utilize the average scores that individuals have attained during that period of entry, and they base their applications and compare the applications based upon that score. In addition, it's also important to know before applying to these universities whether they utilize the situational judgment test component of the UCAT in screening applications. So, for instance, for Sheffield, they will actually use that, and you'll need to fall in 1, 2, or 3 of the bandings. And we'll be talking about the UCAT in a bit more detail with Nafi, who's our UCAT tutor. He will be talking about the different aspects and the different categories of the UCAT. But the banding is effectively a scoring criteria for the SJT, or the situational judgment test of the UCAT. And ultimately, the 1 is the best, and then it goes down to 5, I believe. So ultimately, by ranking highly in the UCAT, you effectively increase your number of choices that you can actually apply for university. So it's actually really, really important part of your application. Then we can see from Manchester, they won't even consider you if you have got band 4 in the SJT. In addition to that, there's other universities there which also consider the UCAT at different sort of percentage weightings. So it's really, really important that you do understand exactly what weighting that the university places on the UCAT. Now, this is a table which we've actually got from our online resource, our website, which is not yet actually live or published, but we're working on it in the background. But what I wanted to show everyone was it's really important to understand exactly the entry requirements that you will need when selecting your university. So for undergraduates, what we've done is we've taken all the information that's available online and put it into one resource, because speaking to many students, they do find that this part of the process is quite laborious, and it can be quite tiring looking through every single website, every single university to determine what criteria that is required for that particular for entry. So what we've done is we've spent loads of time actually going to the universities and identifying exactly what criteria they need. So for instance, Aberdeen, you can see that we've based the information based on different categories, and we've done this for every single university in the UK. So this is actually a free resource that we're going to place on our website, but it's just something that I wanted to make you aware of. And also it's going to be available in the book as well. So it's a really easy resource and a really handy guide to understanding what your entry criteria is. So Raza, I'm going to pass it back to yourself to talk about the personal statement.
Yeah, sure. So with the personal statement, it's one of the most important factors probably after these admissions tests. It's the first piece of academic work that the university is going to have from you, and the admissions team is actually going to judge you off that personal statement and decide to give you an interview. So the personal statement, whatever you write in the personal statement, you most likely will be asked that during your interview, something regarding or something that you've done during your work experience. Now, there's 3 essential factors that make up your personal statement. The first thing is your introduction. It's probably the most important part of your personal statement, I would say, because if your introduction's really good and it brings a reader in, then definitely they're going to continue reading. That's where you can differentiate yourself from everybody else who's applying. As well as your main body. This is where you need to fit most of the chunk of your personal statement will come from, is your main body. That's where most of the information about, you know, how you discovered dentistry as a career, what you learned during your work experience, and, you know, what have you spent your time doing all these years. Because of course, if universities are going to select you as a dental student, they need to know that you can actually cope with the course, and if it's the right choice for you as well. Now, of course, there's many factors that make up your personal statement. Here are just some of the few that we've included in today's presentation. So now, of course, you have to replicate some skills that show the university that, you know, you're a good applicant to choose from out of the many applicants who are applying. Firstly, I want to start off by saying there's got to be some motivation behind your personal statement. So why have you decided to do dentistry? What was it? Was it a personal reason that decided that made you want to select dentistry? Was it was it your work experience which which you observed a dentist and decided, you know, this is a career for me. So what was that triggering factor which actually, you know, made you say that this is going to be the career for me? Was it that you visited your dentist and they made a change to your life significantly? The next step is the exploration. So what have you actually done? What steps have you taken to explore further into the career? Of course, universities know that, sorry, yeah, I was just about to say that. But of course, universities know that, you know, you're just a student at the moment. You can't really, there's only so much that you can learn before actually becoming a dental student. So they do understand that. But what they do want to see is you possessing some of the qualities of a dentist. Something like, you know, being a good communicator, actually going out into your community and making a difference. For example, have you done some volunteering? Dentistry is a very rewarding career, and they want to see what have you done which has actually replicated that feeling in your life. Was it that you volunteered at a care home? Have you used your initiative to look for work experience online possibly? What have you done which has actually informed you more about the career, which makes you apply even more? Also, there's a next step, which is the suitability stage. So how are you suited to a career in dentistry? It's very essential to answer this, because, like I said before, dentistry, you know, it's not like any other career out there. It's a lot hands-on. There's a lot of manual dexterity involved. You know, there's going to be times where you're alone in a practice and you have to manage a huge workload. So they want to see that you'll be able to cope with that, and in the end, in hindsight, become a good, well-rounded dentist. So you have to represent that. You know, are you a team player? Do you play any sports? How have you gone out of your way to demonstrate that, you know, you're ready for the career? It doesn't have to be something very complicated. It could be as simple as managing your time, being reflective in your day-to-day life, such as, you know, everybody makes some sort of mistakes, or there are setbacks in a career like dentistry as well. But what have you done to like bounce back from that? Because there's going to be tough times in dental school as well, where you have to show that you can cope with the workload which is being presented to you, and keep up with deadlines, for example. So you've got to represent that in your personal statement. You know, and dentistry is just not about academia. Like everybody says that it's about academics mostly. It's perceived that, you know, dentists are the A-star, AA grade students, but that's certainly not the case. You know, you have to show some sort of personality in the personal statement, because it is about you. So make sure to go out there. What things do you like doing? What skills have you developed? Is there a certain instrument that you play which helps you in your manual dexterity, for example? So personally for me, I know that I played part of the guitar, which I included in my personal statement. So it's things like that which you can add into your personal statement, which make you stand out, but also show that you have a life outside of just studies and A levels, because it's very good to have that, something to rely back on when you're stressed out, or how do you relieve your stress. So these type of things you really need to consider. And like I say, with your personal statement, the best chance that you could give with your personal statement is to start early, because the later you leave it, the harder it will become. And in a time like this, where there's less help from teachers, there's less help from tutors to read your personal statement, I would highly suggest that within the next few weeks, you should certainly start drafting out your personal statement. So follow the introduction, main body, and conclusion. And of course, you're going to go over many drafts in your personal statement. I personally had quite a high rank when applying to Leeds, just because of my personal statement. So it could be the thing which makes or breaks your application. But certainly, if you have a good personal statement, it puts you above a lot of the other applicants. And they'll most likely, if your personal statement is well written and demonstrates good knowledge, then they're more likely to invite you to an interview because they want to know you further. They want to know, okay, you took part in this volunteering. That shows us that you're already a caring individual who actually generally cares about the health of others, and you want to develop into a lifelong learning career, because that's essentially what dentistry is. Of course, another thing that you could do to maximize your personal statement is, whenever you're doing some sort of work experience relating to dentistry, is create a reflective diary. So some things that you want to potentially include from your work experience in your personal statement. So I remember for my personal statement, I saw my dentist using a rubber dam, for example, and that was for me something quite unreal, and I was really shocked by it. So I made a note of it, and I actually included that in my personal statement. So things like this, that's what the universities want to see. So make sure to use specialist terminology whenever you're referring back to your work experience. Don't just say, like, he used tools. Say what type of tools he used, etc. So, and generally research about the career in dentistry. There's a lot of things going on today with the modern technology and stuff. So definitely go out there, use every sort of resource you have, start early, maximize your chances, and of course show them why you're a good candidate, show them why you deserve the place. Yeah, hopefully round it off with your conclusion, and finish it off nicely.
Okay, so we're going to introduce Catherine now. Sorry, Catherine.
Okay, I'm too keen.
So Catherine is a very valuable member of our team. So Catherine is currently a student at Newcastle University, and she's going to be talking today about how you can maximise your time at home at the moment during this very uncertain time. So Catherine is going to be shining a lot of really valuable lessons and information on exactly what you can do to maximize your time at the moment. So if you haven't got a pen and paper, now's your time to get one, to make loads of really valuable notes on this particular topic, because I know that we've had lots and lots of questions regarding what I can do, what things can we do during this particular time, because work experience has been cancelled and I don't know what to do. So Catherine, I welcome you to the stage. I don't know why I said that, but yeah, carry on.
No worries, thank you. Yeah, so I'm Catherine. I'm the course director for work experience here, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you can do instead of work experience and maximising your time right now. Because like Cal said, we've had loads of questions about people being worried about work experience being cancelled and stuff. So one of the main things to bear in mind is that work experience in a dental setting is obviously ideal, but it's not really about the sort of procedures you see and how much you see. It's more about what you get out of it. And lots of the things that you get out of work experience are stuff that you can actually do at home, learn some of the skills and stuff like that. So dental schools will be bearing in mind that it's really difficult at the moment for students to be getting work experience, so they'll be a lot more lenient on that aspect. But they'll still be hoping to see students being really proactive in getting some sort of alternatives. So, like I said, recommend being proactive and using this time really wisely. There's lots of things that you can do. One of the main things is all the online courses and stuff you do. So we've listed some of our main recommendations here. You can take a photo of that and look those up. Those are some really good ones. I've done a couple myself when I was applying. We're also releasing our work experience course sometime within the next week, hopefully. So I'm going to chat about that specifically in a sec. But that's basically, we'll be releasing several tutorials and stuff, teaching you about the sorts of things that you could be learning during work experience. Although there's lots of stuff to learn online, we'd say there's probably no substitute for actually getting out there and doing stuff as well. So although you may not be able to do it in a dental setting, you can still learn those same skills from volunteering in other ways. So some of the things I know that some of my friends have been doing is volunteering in food banks. What else did I have? Soup kitchens, making up free school meals and stuff. just generally getting out into the community. There's so many people at the moment that are in situations whether either by themselves or vulnerable and unable to get there, like food shops and stuff. So just getting out and being really proactive and doing that will just look really good, and just show that you've got that kind of proactive, compassionate side to you. So yeah, if you can even like set up your own scheme or something in your local community, organising, getting people resources and food and stuff, or even being there to like give someone a phone call and stuff, for people that are a bit lonely and stuff, this sort of thing will really show that you've got like compassion, organisation, interpersonal skills, leadership skills, and so many more things. Another thing that's really, really good is volunteering in a care home. So I think a lot of care homes at the moment are probably looking to take on staff and help. So even though, again, that's not a dental setting, that's really good for learning those interpersonal skills, and you're still working with patients and residents and learning all the key skills that you would during work experience. Just because work experience isn't really available at the moment also doesn't mean that it won't be. There's still quite a few months between now and October, so you don't really need to stress too much about not being able to get stuff done right now. Dentists and stuff will be starting to hopefully open back up in around July time, but we're not too sure what will be happening there, so obviously don't pin your hopes on that. But if they do start to open, contact them, see if people would mind you coming in. Another thing is thinking maybe outside the box a bit. So stuff like dental labs will probably be more likely to be able to take people on because they're not dealing with patients and stuff. I did a day's work experience in a dental lab, which was really, really useful actually, and kind of shows the importance of the whole dental team, which is, again, is something that's really important in dentistry. We work with all the different team members. So it's really good to show that appreciation of all the other people that are involved. Also say, make the most of all of us and probably your dentist at home, dentists in your local area. We've all got a lot more time at the moment than we usually do, so we're all more than happy to help with people's applications and stuff. If you can't get the work experience in that dental setting, you still need to show that you're that you know what it's about, you know what being a dentist is about. So get in contact, get in touch, see what they think dentistry is about, and really check that it's a career suited for you. Maybe ask if you could set up a video call with someone so you can really like ask your questions about dentistry, because it's not an easy route. A lot of people think it's like sometimes in school think it's an easy alternative to medicine. I can guarantee it's not, so you do need to be really committed and know that it's something that's right for you. So just speaking to us, reaching out. Most of us have Instagram and stuff. You can contact us through the page as well. Contact your local dentist and stuff, and that'll be really good for getting some more advice on that. You can also use this time to find out a little bit more about dentistry, do some research and stuff. One of the things that I got asked about quite a bit in my interviews was about what research I'd done. So I'd included in my personal statement a little bit about how I'd read an article on the link between Alzheimer's disease and periodontitis, and talked about how I found it really interesting that dentistry had such an impact on whole body conditions, and that was something that they really picked up on at the interviews. One thing I would make sure though, if you're looking into articles like that and research, make sure you are really clued up on it, so it doesn't just look like you're writing stuff down for the sake of filling up your personal statement. Make sure you really know what you're talking about. But that will show really good interest in the course and like that bit of a like deeper level of like commitment and stuff to it. Another thing, a lot of people do EPQs, but if you haven't done an EPQ, you could even do like your own mini research project. It doesn't have to be in such like a standardized way as a qualification within school. You can take something on yourself, maybe look into quite contentious issues such as like fluoridation, or some other things, maybe look into like amalgam. And then what a really good idea I thought would be to do is to then present this when you're back at school, because that extra presenting skill is just another form of communication skill, and that's something to really show that you've done. Now we're going to quickly talk about our work experience course that we've got. So I think we've got about 17 or 18 tutorials planned, so we're just finalising those at the moment. This isn't so much of a substitute for work experience, but sort of something to supplement it and make up for kind of the specific dental aspects that you might be losing from work experience. So we've got lots of mini tutorials which will be going through all the topics that we think are really kind of key to know before you apply to dentistry. And a lot of these things are things that you'd pick up usually on work experience anyway. So this would be really good to do, really good to kind of clue yourself up on and have a little look through some of these as well before interviews, just so that if they throw a question at you, it's more just having a general awareness of it rather than knowing all the ins and outs of everything. So I think that's most of what I had to say, but if anyone has any questions for me or anything about that, then just leave it in the comments and we'll get back to that at the end, if that's all right.
Thank you very much, Catherine. That was great. So what we're going to do now is we're very, very fortunate to have Fadila. So Fadila is a student at Leeds University. She's going to be sharing some light on life as a dentistry student, because we do have quite a lot of questions. And one of the things that you would naturally question is, what is it like to be a student at university? So Fadila is going to explain a little bit about her background in terms of getting into dental school, as well as her sort of current experience as a dentistry student at the University of Leeds. So Fadila, can I get you to unmute yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Fadila and I'm a second year student at Leeds currently. So in terms of A-levels, I did biology, chemistry and English literature. And I also did like an EPQ, which is an extended project. And that was like related to dentistry as well. So it kind of boosted my application, I think. In terms of applying to unis, I applied to Queen Mary's in London, Liverpool, Leeds and Sheffield. And I was lucky to get all 4 interviews and then 3 out of 4 offers. So yeah, that's kind of a bit of my background. Now talking about dentistry right now, what I really love about it is we kind of start combining the theory and practical like right from the beginning. So pretty much straight away we're kind of thrown into it. So first year we kind of start off with something called like SimDance. So they're 3D virtual reality simulators, and we basically kind of get a feel of what it's like to you know, get hands-on, get a feel of like caries removal, for example. And then slowly we kind of scale that up. So we get to labs where we work on phantom heads, we work on plastic teeth, we work on real teeth, things like that, just to get a feel all round and get ourselves used to, you know, holding a drill, for example. And then from there, straight into clinics. So we start by doing the smallest of things, like using disclosing solution on each other, which is kind of fun, first time all of us wearing scrubs together and things like that. And then we kind of just start to see patients. So it's kind of a mix of, you know, slowly familiarizing yourself with different skills and, you know, with the instruments and stuff. But also at the same time, you're kind of thrown into it. So it's a mix of pressure and familiarity. It's amazing, really. So yeah, being in second year, I've already been fortunate enough to see my own patient, which was an absolutely amazing experience. Like, I think something that's memorable for every single dentist student will be their first patient. Like, I don't think I'll be able to forget mine. The nerves, just the experience of speaking to them for the first time, kind of being in charge in a sense, it's something that you can't compare to anything else. So yeah, we also assist like 4th years as well. So as a second year, I assist the 4th year, 3rd years then assist 5th years. So we get to kind of get a scope of different procedures, not just the ones we learn about in our lectures. And that also enables us to kind of observe them and kind of ask them questions in a more like comfortable setting. And that also helps us walk through like consultations and see how they're carried out, so that we can then apply that within our own consultations as well. Outside of dentistry, we also have like loads of societies and things to get involved with. So something I'm really passionate about and involved in at Leeds currently is a society called Open Wide. So this is like an organisation which aims to like educate people about dentistry as a career. So we go to primary schools and secondary schools, and we do things like careers fairs to just raise awareness of dentistry as a career. And we also help to raise awareness of dental health as well. So for example, in primary schools, we, with like year 4 students, we have like little games and things to get them involved and kind of keep their hands on to build that interest. And it also helps us reach those communities that are underrepresented in dentistry. So that's really great. And then we also have DentSoc, and I think every uni pretty much has their dental society. So that gives us like events and stuff to unwind outside of, being in the lecture hall or being in labs and things like that, including things like dental ball and like different events and outings. So it just gives you an opportunity to socialize and kind of unwind, because obviously it is quite a hectic schedule that we have. In terms of top tips and things, I would say before applying, research as much as possible into the universities you want to go to. So don't just look at league tables and take their word for it. Really look into the course, see what they're offering, see what applies to you, the opportunities they'll give you, and go for that. So lots of universities differ in, their course structure and whether they, for example, allow you to intercalate, which might be something you're interested in. So it's a really good idea to look at that beforehand, so you're not limiting yourself early on. Like Raza said earlier, academics are really important, but it's also very important to show yourself as like an all-rounder. So pursue your hobbies. Not only is this good for your mental health, it's also a chance to improve your manual dexterity. Work experience is really important, again, as he said. So I would say it's not just important to go for dental work experience. Get any experience you can with both hands, because any skill you can get is transferable. So personally, when I was, I think in AS levels, I kind of went for any work experience that I knew of. So I worked. I went through experience in a pharmacy. I went to a GP. I went to all like loads of different places, working with kids, working with adults, working in a care home. And not only does that build your confidence going to different places, it also builds your communication skills with different kinds of individuals. So obviously the way you would speak to a 4-year-old would be very different to the way you speak to an elderly person. So that just helps you kind of build your adaptability and things like that. And after the work experience as well, it's really important to reflect on your experience that you've had as well, to be able to learn from it. Like I said, I'd just say go for any experience you can. Don't just think, okay, I'm going for dentistry, let me go for dental work experience. Grab every opportunity with both hands. And if you've got any questions for me, just let me know in the chat and I'll answer them in due time.
Thank you very much, Fadila. That's fantastic. I'm sure lots of people have been inspired by that, and you've helped answer some questions that we've got. We do have lots of questions in the chat. So what I'm going to be doing now is just taking a very short interval to cover some of the questions that we've received so far. If we don't cover the questions that we get and we move on, we will cover your questions at the end of the presentation. So I'm just going to quickly flick through the questions now. Okay, so the first question, is this all still relevant to graduates? Graduate entry will be discussed slightly later with our colleague Binny. He's actually a graduate himself, so he'll be discussing work experience as a graduate and graduate entry options and comparing them both. Kelly, why did you choose to study dentistry? That certainly will be covered later, but what we'll do is Arij will get you to answer some of these questions. So Arij is a student at Barts University. Are you there?
Yeah. Hi everyone.
I'm
So
a
are we
first year student at Bots Queen Mary.
fantastic? So Arij, we've got this
Can you
question.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. From Kelly, why did you choose to study dentistry? I think that's a very, very common question that probably lots of students get asked. And that's particularly a prominent question that is known to come up at dental school interviews. But just talking briefly, what was your sort of choice? What were the things that went through your head when you're considering this as a career?
Okay, so I never really thought about it as a career until I had like my braces, and I had really bad teeth beforehand, and afterwards I saw like a massive difference, and now I have a smile. So hello?
Oh, I think we
Sorry,
lost
I
you
got
then. I think we
disconnected.
lost you. Yeah. If you repeat that, sorry, Arij.
Okay. Okay.
We've got
So
something about
I was
braces.
saying how, yeah, so I got braces, and I'm sure many people have also had them before. And after getting them, I saw like a massive difference, how I gained more confidence and just a big change in like self-esteem and things like that. And that's when I noticed, that's when I thought, oh, this might be something that I might want to do for people as well. So then I took dentistry work experience. So I did 2 weeks in a dental practice, and I really liked it because just like the way I saw the dentist interact with the patient, it was really heartwarming, and it really appealed to me because of how you can make a difference like instantly. So for example, a patient might come with you to you with tooth pain, and you could sort it out in that instant. So I felt like that was really rewarding, and I would really like to do that. And another thing as well, I saw someone ask, like, why not medicine? I feel like they're really different as well. For me, I preferred dentistry because of I preferred like clinical. How do I explain? Like I liked how the dental clinic was compared to, for example, doctors working in a hospital, because I also did volunteering at a hospital, and I preferred the dentistry instead. That's how I saw it. I hope that
Fantastic.
helps.
No, that was very useful. And I think just echoing that, I think that is quite a common question, medicine versus dentistry. And I think Haroon has got something to say about that.
Yeah, hi. On that question, that was something that actually plagued my mind for many, many months. It took me about 2 years to decide between the two. So I'd got a lot of work experience between the two. And something that pushed me over the dental edge, if you can say that, is the fact that in a dental practice, a dentist works as like a physician, like a general doctor, but also as a surgeon. So the dentist will diagnose your patient, and they will go through the entire treatment process as a surgeon. So they will do both elements, and that kind of longevity with dentistry as well. I felt that was only in GPs, but I like the element of surgery, so I wanted to combine the two into one job, and I find that dentistry did that really, really well. Additionally, the business side of dentistry, a lot of people don't think about that, but it's something that really, really appealed to me, to be able to work in a practice, potentially own a practice. And then there's the artistic side. There's a lot of different elements to it. But yeah, that's what sort of pushed me over the edge.
Fantastic. That's great. We've got a question here, slightly different actually. It's about, I believe it's about the UCAT and when you should start revising. So Nafi, do you want to just say a few words about this aspect?
Right, yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Nafi. I'm a medical student at the University of Leeds, and I'm lead on teaching the BMAT and the UCAT. So when it comes to revising for your entrance exams, I like to keep about 6 to 8 weeks, or I recommend it to my students, about 6 to 8 weeks prep for the UCAT and the BMAT, purely because a extended period of time before revising before an exam will help you build up your confidence and build up your technique and skill when it comes to what you're doing in the exam, which will be a massive edge when you're actually sitting the exam. So 6 to 8 weeks is what I recommend.
Fantastic. The other question that we have is Scotland, so from Linda, so this is going to be addressed to Binny because he's a Scottish dental student, or dental student in Scotland, should I say. So is Scotland good for dentistry? She is also from Italy, my country. There isn't something like shadowing or work experience with dentists. So in my personal statement, I would just put my volunteering experience. Do you think this is enough? So Binny, firstly, talking about your experience as a student in Scotland.
Yeah, not a problem. Hi there, everyone. So I'm originally from England, and I moved up to Scotland to do dentistry, hence the accent's very different. In terms of dentistry in Scotland, it is really, really good. I think Glasgow is one of the top dental schools or universities, especially when I applied, and has been voted in different charts. They have quite a integrated year. So as soon as you start, you're integrated with every other year, quite small. So it's quite a family environment. So they ease you in quite slowly, they make sure you're comfortable, and we just try to help each other out, basically. In terms of dentistry, anything you're weak on, anything you have questions on, you can not only go to lecturers, pretty much just knock on their door, but you can also go to students. And in terms of experience, each year as you progress, they increase the amount of clinical experience you have. So early on, when you first start, you'll be shadowing the 3rd years and 5th years. And within the 2nd year, you'll start doing your own experience with phantom heads, as mentioned before. And the 3rd year onwards, you pretty much have your own patients. And then the complexity of the treatment increases as the year goes on. So it's really smooth transitions. They really hold your hand through it and make you feel comfortable, because it is all about patient safety, but to make sure you're comfortable during the process.
Fantastic. That's really, really useful. In terms of preparation for interviews, I know that we're going to cover that in a later webinar, because that in itself will require quite a lot of time. But someone's asked a question here. How do you prepare for MMI and panel interviews? So what I'm going to do for this one is, from our team, if someone wants to speak up, I'm sure that there's many different approaches to this. So if anyone wants to volunteer, I'm not going to choose anyone, but if anyone wants to speak up and say something, because I know that we've got different methods of preparing. So if someone wants to say something.
I can take this one.
Yes, Jasmine.
So, I'm a Plymouth dental student, or Peninsula, and to that school we do, well, when I did it, we did a panel interview. So that requires you to sit in front of 3 to 4 interviewers and just talk and answer questions. So to prepare for that situation, you have to just be able to hold a conversation and continue, because you are there for an extended period of time, 10 to 15 minutes, maybe sometimes longer. So you need to be able to just keep speaking, and you prepare in the same way for both, because the questions often overlap in both MMI stations and for the panel interviews. They are very similar questions, it's just the way they're asked. So with MMI, which I also sat, you can move on from one station to the other. It's timed, so you have a specific limit, but you can forget that you've had an answer to one question. So if one went wrong, just reset, move over, and the next person doesn't know that one went wrong, and they score you individually based on that specific station you're sitting at. Whereas in a panel, they take the whole interview. There is no resetting. So you just have to be more prepared in the sense that, you know, if you do make a mistake, you have to recover from that to the same people. Whereas in MMIs, you can kind of forget it and move on. So that's the main difference. And that's where your thinking has to change, in the sense that take your time in panels. Whereas in MMIs, you do have that second chance in case you just mess up one station.
Fantastic. Anyone else from the team?
Just to add to that, I had my interview at Leeds, and it was an MMI interview. I took a completely different type of approach, where I went out and seeked help from Cal, and from there I started to pick up things, such as specialist terminology. So you might want to go get in touch with your dentist as well, because they can offer you a lot of help before your interview. And I'd also say, because MMIs they do vary. So you're tested. It's not like a panel where you're meant to hold a conversation. It's more about skill based with the MMI. So for one station, like Fadila did touch upon, we had to do evidence our manual dexterity through simodonts. Now, not all universities will have that resource. Many would give you a task, like follow a set of instructions and create a model, for example, because they want to see how well your manual dexterity is. But most importantly, because of course you're not completely a dental student yet, so you're not going to display 100% manual dexterity, but what you can display is the ability to reflect upon where you went wrong and how you could possibly improve next time. So I think different stations such as communication and then dental ethics, these are probably the most important ones in the MMI, as well as keeping up to date with any news about dentistry you can be asked that, as well as the basics, like I said before, going back to your personal statement, reading that before your interviews, because they're going to base probably the face-to-face questions that they're going to ask are going to be based off your personal statement. So as long as everything that you've said in there is genuine, and you can hold a conversation about it, then you should be fine. As well as practice. The more time you give yourself with these type of things, the better situation you'll be in, because you'll already have taken the steps before your interview. As well as there's certain things that you could do on the day of the interview. For example, if you've reached there, probably you want to reach there as early as possible. So I'm not from Leeds, so I had to travel there. I reached there probably about an hour before. But the best thing to do is get into a conversation with somebody completely random on the day, possibly like another student. You'll both be feeling nervous. So talk to them. And the more you talk, the better position you'll be in to hold a conversation with completely different interviewers within about 7 minutes each time.
Fantastic, Raza. Thank you very much.
Can I add something? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Please.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything that Raza said. Just in addition to what he said, I'd really recommend practicing in front of friends if you can. Obviously, with COVID, it's a bit hard, but if you can practice in front of them, they'll be able to point out, or family if you can, they'll be able to point out things that you do in terms of non-verbal communication that you may not notice yourself. Maybe you do a twitch with your hands, or maybe you stare off, or things like this. They'll be able to pick up on that, or your speed of speech. So practice in front of people, it will get out the nerves. It's much, much more effective than just writing out answers or preparing on paper, because articulating a point is very, very different to writing a point. So I'd really recommend practicing.
I totally agree with that, Harun. I think if you can sit in front of a group of friends, or imagine a couple of friends or family, and they can sort of put you under pressure and put you under stress into that situation, that will really help. And also sometimes recording yourself as well, utilizing phone, and seeing how you actually are back at that by replaying the video. That's a really, really interesting and valuable way of learning as well. Fantastic. So I know that we've had so many questions, and members of the team are answering them as we get them. The last question I want to answer is, I have a part-time job whilst studying. Should I keep this so far I'm good at managing my time? I believe Catherine has a job part-time at universities. Do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, so I didn't have a part-time job in first year, but in second year I took one on. And I've carried this on through to now, still doing that. I think it all depends on your own personal circumstances and how you find that you manage your time. I was finding that I was managing my time quite well in first year, so I thought I had the time to take it on. And I think personally I found it to be fine, but I know other people that would really struggle having a part-time job. Especially in fourth year, quite a few of my friends have part-time jobs at the moment, but so it definitely can make it work, but I think it just depends on you as an individual. And I think if you find it's getting too much for you, you don't need to continue that. Like, your degree at the end of the day is the priority, so you do need to focus on that and make sure that you're doing well enough in that. But yeah, it's definitely a possibility.
Fantastic. That is really, really useful advice there. Okay, so the next slide, we're going to introduce Binny. Binny is a graduate at the University of Glasgow. He is going to shine some light on postgraduates. I know we've got a couple of postgraduates on this webinar. So, you know, Binny's really quite a unique individual in regards to his career pathway so far to dental school. So for those graduates that are listening, please please pay attention to Binny, because he's got some really valuable advice for graduates entering dentistry.
Thanks for that. Thanks for the introduction and high praise. Hi there, everyone. So like I said, I'm Binny. I'm from Glasgow University. I'm a fourth year dental student. Hopefully, if things go well, in fifth year by the end of next week. Yeah, so my pathway was a little bit different. So I basically finished my A-levels and still didn't know what I wanted to do. I was in that sort of interim where I was like, I know I like sciences, but I don't want to just specify into one area right now and not be sure that this is what I want to do. So I went for biomedical sciences, which is like a summary of different sciences out there. I did it near my house at Royal Holloway University, which is quite a well-known university, quite accredited with their biomedical sciences degree as well. I then, during that degree is when I started to think, actually, you know what, all the different areas of sciences are interesting, but nothing's really appealing too much at the moment. I then started to do work experience in different areas to see what I would like. So whether that was optometry or medicine or dentistry. And out of all the areas I found, it was actually dentistry was the one that I found most interesting. So it was the one that I kept doing. I kept extending my work experience basically with them. And I found that this is still holding my attention. I'm still interested to know what's going on. So that's sort of when I decided I wanted dentistry. It's quite late compared to a lot of people, but that was when I was sure that this is the area I want to go into. So after finishing my degree, I applied for dentistry and I didn't get in on the first attempt. So I then started working. During the time I was working, that's when the fees changed for universities. So a lot of you might not know, but a while ago, university fees used to be a lot less. So it used to be around £3,000 a year. So when they changed to 9,000, I made a decision to keep working for a couple of years to save money so I can financially afford a university for a few years. That's when I reapplied. And upon reapplying, all the experience I'd gathered after university and during my previous degree in biomedical sciences and what I put down on my personal statement. So that's really had a sit down moment after university when I was ready. Oh, sorry, BDS just means the year of dentistry you're in. So yeah, I basically sat down and I was like, look, how do I distinguish myself from applicants that are going to apply to dentistry that have just come out of A-levels or college and that are fresh, that I've just been studying the whole time. Like I haven't studied for about 3 to 4 years because I've been working that time period. So I looked at what skills I had, what I had learned, what would distinguish me, and that's what I put down in my personal statement. So for postgrads, what I would recommend in your personal statement is try to change it to what you previously put down if you did apply to dentistry beforehand, or what you think the generic forms are online at the moment. So I started putting down what I did in my degree, how that shaped some of the skills I had, how those skills are relevant to the characteristics that make up a dentist, or what I believe make up a dentist, and how I've practiced them in the years since my degree. I put down a lot about my job. So I worked as a territory manager. So I worked both in the medical setting for the NHS and private practices with nurses and specialists. So I put a lot of that information down. And that was really the bulk of my personal statement. The first 3 or 4 paragraphs were really just about everything I've done from my degree onwards. So I really recommend sitting down, writing down a piece of paper, what skills do you have? How have you trained these skills? And are these skills relevant to those that make up a dentist? And really just try to, that helps distinguish you from someone else that previously hasn't done a degree, or even that may have done a degree, but why would you stand out more than them? During my degree as well, a lot of you in your final year of your degree would have a dissertation or a project to do. Now, with me, I could do anything I wanted in that project or dissertation. I decided to speak to the pharmacology department and ask them if they would oversee me while I did the use of local anesthetics in dentistry and their future use. So that's when I started specializing or forming a bit more about dentistry there as well. And that's what I put down in my personal statement. The choices I had, I made an active decision to do something about dentistry in that moment. And that again made up my personal statement. So have you done anything in your degree that has led you towards dentistry? Or have you done anything since your degree if you're working, or in your gap year potentially, that's led you towards dentistry? And what is it? And I think putting sort of information like that really helps you stand out. It's only sort of in my last paragraph or two that I started talking about my extracurricular activities. So I tutored, so I put that in there. I worked I was part of the Territorial Army for a couple of years, I put that in there. I was captain of the hockey team, started playing the sports I play. So that's really where I started putting sort of extracurricular activities. So that helped to round off my personal statement. And I think that's what they sort of look for, what I thought they would look for. What have I done different? What else you stand out? And what sort of makes me a well-rounded candidate, not just educational, but also has extracurricular hobbies and ways to de-stress. So yeah, I hope that answers my sort of story and the journey into dentistry. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the group. And when we have a Q&A, I'm more than happy to discuss them.
That's great, Binny. Thank you very much for that. We have received a question, which we'll cover just briefly. It is, where did you apply to as a graduate, and what was the rationale for applying to a graduate entry and undergraduate BDS course?
That's a really, really good question. So I basically phoned up, I made a table. So luckily you don't have it in this presentation provided, or you will have it on the website later on the book. I basically made up a table myself of all the universities that do dentistry, what the requirements are, and then I phoned each and every university, and I basically said to them, this is who I am, this is the degree I've done, this is the grade I've got, this is my UCAT score. Is there, if I was to apply last year with these scores, would I have at least gotten an interview? And then pretty much from that conversation, I was able to narrow down a lot of the universities to the ones that would say, yeah, you would have got an interview, or no, you wouldn't have. And the ones that said, yeah, I then looked further into them. And I decided that the best way to really do it for myself was to put 2 postgraduate dentistry courses in and 2 undergraduate courses in. Because if I had put all 4 postgraduate courses down and I didn't get in, and I then applied next year and got in, it would still be 5 years for me. So in terms of duration, it would have been the same. So that's why I did 2 and 2. And it worked out really well. I got, obviously with postgrad, you start getting interviews, you start getting exams you have to do beforehand with some of the universities to show that you know the first year content in essence. So from that, I found that was the best option for me and worked really, really well.
That's fantastic, Binny. Thank you. So that's a little bit about postgraduates. We're now going to touch upon resitting and reapplication. So we're going to introduce Jas. Jas is currently a student at Plymouth University. So Jas, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I was muted.
Okay, no problem. So Jas is going to be covering this topic. So for anybody who is potentially resitting their sort of A-levels or any sort of qualifications that they've currently done, or is reapplying to dental school, then really this is really important information that you should take note of. So Jas, I'll let you carry on.
Lovely, thank you. So I'm Jasleen, and I'm a 4th year dentist at Plymouth or Peninsula Dental School. So a big question that's always asked is which universities accept resit or reapplicants. So this changes from year to year, and you have to do your research. So the best thing you can do is contact the dental schools directly, and like Binny said, tell them your circumstances, ask them all the questions, no questions too small, and just like really get the answers you're looking for. Because on the websites you can find the information, but often it can be hard to find or interpret. So it's just to make sure that you've got the exact information you need. It's also worth noting that the applications for resits, reapplications, or gap years are all different dependent on your circumstances. So if you're retaking because you didn't get the grades, but you got offer, then that puts you in a different category to those who are reapplying because they got the grades but didn't get the offer. So sometimes they'll stipulate that if you're retaking, you need to have put the university down as a first choice or in the top 4 choices the first time round on UCAS. They also may say things like you have to have completed your A levels in 2 years, so you wouldn't have been allowed to take the third year to do your resits, things like that. And some may even offer a deferred entry scheme. So it's all very important that you check this out and make sure you know which category you fall under. So the biggest piece of advice I could give you guys is make sure you look at this before you apply the first time round in UCAS. I know it seems like it's potentially not even an issue for you, or but you can never be too prepared. And I didn't do that. I thought, I just applied to the ones that were close to me or I like the look of, and it left me with only 2 options when I was reapplying, 2 universities. And if I had looked at it beforehand, I would have had a good few extra. So always just think ahead. And also, when you are calling the universities, make sure that the advice you're being given will not change for the next or following year. Because although they may accept reapplicants or resits this year, it might not be relevant to the year when it actually is happening to you. So just make sure you've got all that information. The next thing I'm going to talk about is how to impress. So it's important to remember that you will all be on the same playing field. Whether you took a gap year, whether you're retaking, whether you're reapplying, you're all on the same playing field. So you have to make sure that your application stands out. So being proactive, showing continual commitment to wanting to do dentistry, work experience, self-improvement, all of that good stuff. So remember, you have to rewrite your personal statement. So make the best of it. And hindsight is a beautiful thing. You can look back at what your previous applications were and kind of think, where did I go wrong, or what did I wish I had done to make my application better? And it's also really important to note that when you're going through the application process the first time round, you can actually email the universities that you had interviews at to ask for feedback as to why, or even personal statement, you can ask for feedback as to why they rejected you if they did. And that can just set you up nicely for the next year if you had to reapply, of what you could change. Remember UCAT, BMAT, GAMSAT, all of that, you need to make sure you're also aware of that and don't forget to sign up to all those. And another big statement is that there are other options. Resitting and reapplying is not the only 2 options. You've got, as Vinny said, the graduate entry schemes, got deferred entries, all sort of things. And the journey's not over. If you don't get in the first time, don't give up, because a lot of us on this panel aren't straight from school to dental school, straight from college. So, there are other ways of getting in, and there's so many people that don't get in on the first try. So just show that you're committed and really work on yourself, and you will get there. Contacting schools I've already spoken about. So really just talk to admissions teams. Don't be scared to ask questions. Build a good rapport, because they are a wealth of knowledge, and just stay in the loop kind of thing. And then finally on this slide is how to maximize your time away from study. So obviously studying is a priority, and you don't want to burn out before you even get to dental school. So make sure you have a good support network around you, and keep calm. Focus on your own journey. Don't look at what everyone else is doing, because it can often just stress you out. Focus on you, your application, and do things that make you think will make you think that it will make you stand out, things like that. So pick up communication skills, because that you're going to still have to sit interviews. Manual Dexterity, pick up cross stitching. I think also, if I'm not mistaken, if you pick up an instrument and do above a certain grade, you can put it on your UCAS. So things like that, you have the time, you have the year to really work on yourself, build your portfolio, go on courses, and also relax, have time, meet your friends that are going to university, travel, things like that. But I'll go on to that on what to do about gap years, which is the next slide. So gap years. So I kind of already mentioned the common reasons to take a gap year. So obviously resitting, because you didn't get the grades, but you got the offers. Didn't get any offers, but got the grades, or both. Personal growth, or like Vinny said, just not being sure. Dentistry is a big commitment, so make sure you want to do it. And it's also something that interviewers can easily pick out from a crowd of those who are really interested in dentistry and those who are doing it because they don't know what else to do, or they're not sure. So, having that passion and that drive really comes across in both your personal statement and interview, and it should really make you stand out. And also for finances and personal issues, again, there's many reasons you can take a gap year, and none of them disadvantage you. So they don't look at you and think, oh, you took a gap year for this reason, so therefore you're below anyone else. It just is a different journey. And then finally, how you can make your gap year productive. So we've all said it, work experience, work experience, work experience. It is the best thing you can do, and you've got a year, so there's really kind of no excuses other than COVID. So with COVID, like obviously we have all the courses that we've already mentioned, and as Catherine said, it's also about volunteering. So it doesn't have to be in a dental practice. Any healthcare setting or any setting at all builds so many good traits, communication skills, confidence, you know, patient-centered care, all of this sort of good stuff. Academics, I don't really need to dwell on too much. Everyone knows that academics is a priority. You have to get the grades or you won't get into dental school. Traveling, as I mentioned before, going out, that although it doesn't seem like something that would make you stand out, it can, because you're gaining independence, you know, you're building your confidence, and that's everything that can be transferred to uni life. It's not just dentistry that you have to cope with when you go to uni, it's all the other things that come with it. It's such a big world you're going into, and often alone, so you need to have that ability to adapt to different situations. And as I said before, learning new skills, so picking up a sport, manual dexterity, things like that. And just to end, I'll speak about a bit about my personal experience. So I'm a retake student because I didn't get the grades the first time round, but I got, luckily, all my offers. So I had put Plymouth as my first choice the first time round, and luckily, because I had done that, I was allowed to choose Plymouth second time and reapply to them. So then in my gap year, I thought, you know, what could I do to make my personal statement stand out? So I worked in a dental practice as a quality care commissioner, which is a fancy word of saying I did a lot of paperwork for them and watched over some dentists. So it really, really helped with all the ethical questions and things like that, because I knew the policies and I could, you know, apply myself and knew what dentistry was kind of about. I then also had a job, so I worked as a duty manager of a sports centre, so helped with the funds for uni, and also confidence, organisation, managing a team, things like that. I'm also a huge fan of sports, so I kept up with all of that. And finally, I travelled, and this is quite a funny story. I travelled to America for 2 weeks originally to help with a charity out there called Make a Child Smile, which I was meant to just do admin stuff for them. I ended up speaking to one of the dental tutors for the university in America, and he said, how about you shadow our university here in America? So I ended up extending my trip and shadowing a dental school out there, which was an amazing experience and again made me stand out. So the biggest thing I could say is just speak to people, like talk to dentists. They're all more willing than you know to help, and you never know where you can find yourself. Like if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't just taken the leap, and I was very scared to, I wouldn't be in dental school right now, and also taking the risk of just accepting I need a gap year and not going to a different degree or doing anything else. I knew dentistry was for me, got me where I am. So I just say stick to your guns and just keep speaking to people, keep asking for information, and people are willing to help. So yeah, that's basically what I've got to say.
That's great. Thank you very much for that. That was really, really useful and insightful for those people who are considering a gap year or are sort of retaking or resitting. So I'm going to quickly cover, I know that we've got a lot of questions about various aspects of getting into university, questions and things. We'll definitely cover those. I just want to get through these last few slides, which won't take too long, because I know it's getting quite late and I do apologise, but the last few slides, and then we'll go through everyone's question, and then at the end we've also got some sign-up codes and some freebies as well, and also a link to the next webinar which we'll be talking about soon. So this is really something not to miss. So non-conventional entry is pretty much to do with individuals who aren't taking a traditional path to get into the actual dentistry course. So these include things such as the pre-dental courses, foundation years, gateways to dentistry, educational diplomas that individuals can sit, and widening participation. So effectively, these are things for individuals who may not have sat the correct science A-levels, or those who have been out of education for a while. So for instance, mature students. And it also includes individuals who may be from less representative backgrounds. So for instance, individuals who may come from households in areas whereby in that particular geographical location, it's not typical for them to progress to higher education. So the whole purpose of these particular entry portals, effectively, is to actually allow individuals to enter dentistry beyond the normal sort of traditional entry pathways. We touched upon widening participation slightly earlier, and this basically is to do with universities utilising something called contextual factors, and these factors are variable factors which basically pinpoint you on a scale, so based upon your sort of geographical location, whether anyone in the family has gone to university, maybe household income. There's various factors which are all but they're all available on the individual website. So effectively, this is allowing individuals from those less represented backgrounds to access university. And we've got a link on our website, which is coming out shortly with that, and that's completely free to access. But that does give more information about that. Higher education diplomas, again, are effectively qualifications that can be sat at local colleges that allow individuals who may have been out of education for some time or may not have the correct qualifications at GCSE to then actually get the necessary skills and attributes to then apply to a dentistry course. This particular table here covers some of the pathways which we have been made aware of from our research online. So for those individuals who may not, or for those individuals who this may apply to, I'd recommend taking a quick photo. This is also available in our book and also coming on the website as well. This particularly highlights the various different pathways that you can take if you haven't done the traditional pathway. So for instance, if you've not done science at A-level or only have done one science at A-level but you really want to do dentistry, there are different routes. If you haven't attained sort of the right GCSEs, there are other pathways to get in. Some of these pathways, you have to bear in mind that they are going to be slightly longer and in length to sort of get the necessary qualifications and the necessary formal education, but there are routes to get into dentistry. Now, what I'd strongly recommend is that for anyone who is considering these pathways, that they contact the dental schools, because although we've done our utmost best to ensure that the information that you're receiving is up to date, sometimes the dentistry schools do have their own criteria, and they sometimes do change things. So the first thing really is to understand from the universities firsthand exactly what requirements they have. Everyone's going to be different, especially if you're taking a non-conventional route. Typically individuals will have a very different pathway. They'll have different qualifications and perhaps have their own reason as to why they're going down that pathway. So it's really important that you have the sort of the contact numbers and the emails of the universities and make correspondence with them to ensure that they know exactly your situation, and in addition to that, they can provide you with the most valid information available. So we're reaching pretty much the end of the presentation now. I'm going to introduce Nafi, who's still with us.
Yeah, don't worry.
So Nafi is going to be talking a little bit about a new feature that we've recently launched, and something that which I think is absolutely critical for everyone who's thinking of applying to study dentistry, because the UCAT is effectively the key assessment test that everyone will need to sit. So this is something which, well, I'll let Nafi talk more about it, but effectively it's something which is really important. So Nafi, I'll let you take the lead from here.
Yes, of course. Again, hello, I'm Nafi. I'm a medical student at the University of Leeds. So as previously mentioned, the UCAT is one of the fundamental parts of your dental application. It, depending on what university you apply to, the UCAT could be a majority factor, could be a minority factor, or could be balanced compared with personal statement or other contextual factors. But for a majority of cases, it is a key and critical component. So getting the best score and doing as well as you can will put you ahead of many of the other candidates you'll be going against. And what we're launching are some UCAT e-lessons. They're 2-hour sessions on each of the different sections of the UCAT, where you'll be sitting down with a tutor in small groups of 10, up to 10, sorry, where we'll be going through worked examples, going through techniques, going through tips, tricks, going through the general overview of the exam, basically everything that you'll need to know in order to get that higher score and help your dental application. Cal, if you could move on to the next, please. So there are loads of benefits, as mentioned. So one of the students that we have previously tutored achieved a UCAT score in the top decile, which is a phenomenal achievement. The small group teaching environment is a big boost when it comes to taking in information and getting and gaining those tips and tricks and skills. We recommend 6 to 8 weeks prep prior to the exam, mainly due to alleviate stress and increase confidence, as the UCAT, as will be discussed in those lessons, is a very time critical exam, and decreasing the time thinking and answering questions, increasing the time spent on answering questions will give you a massive benefit. And every lesson will be recorded and replayable, so you can learn at your own pace.
Fantastic. That was really, really useful information. And I just want to touch upon some of the things that we are introducing. So we have officially launched these UCAT live lessons. These lessons are dedicated to those individuals who want to prepare for themselves slightly earlier. As Nafi said, typically students who tend to achieve quite high scores have actually afforded themselves the additional time to spend with preparing and also with ensuring that they cover the different types of questions in the UCAT, because there are 5 different sections. And ultimately, these classroom lessons are designed to go through every single aspect of each section so that you're fully aware of what could come up, and you practice for the individual sections and you cover the different questions. So you can come away knowing the different strategies, the methods to cover even the most difficult of questions. The classroom environment is great because we limit the number of individuals to 10, so therefore you get a very intimate learning environment, and the tutors such as Nafi will be able to go through individual questions with yourself, and ensuring that at the end of the lesson, which is 2 hours long, you'll not only get a tutorial, almost like a classroom, but you'll also work through mini exercises, you'll work through worked examples, you'll also be able to cover a number of questions and get some questions and answers to that whilst you work them out. Obviously, in addition to that, we will record that particular lesson as well, so therefore we can send it to you, so you're able to sort of replay that and learn at your own pace, and therefore cover the information again if you need to. In terms of preparation, we have launched for June, but we are running the UCAT sessions and preparation sessions throughout every month. And the way that would work is that going back to this slide, every week we will cover one subject. So if you look at this slide, we've launched for June 2020, and every Monday, that's between 7 till 9 p.m, we'll be covering one of the sections of the UCAT on that particular date. In terms of sort of inclusivity, we have actually launched a bursary scheme. So for individuals who may be eligible, so those individuals who, for instance, have free school meals or come from less represented backgrounds, we are offering a 50% discount. So we will contribute 50% towards that total fee for the lesson. So if you want to find out more about the bursary scheme, just get your phone and hover over that QR code on the bottom left of the screen, and you'll be able to find more information about that on our document. In terms of the lessons themselves, we are actually offering a booking discount. So if you were to cover the 5 lessons, then there's a reduced fee for £25 per lesson. But if you just want a single lesson, for instance, if you've just got a weakness on one area and you want to top up on that, then that's a £30 fee. Fantastic. So we've pretty much come to the end of the presentation. And there's a couple of things that I wanted to mention. Firstly, thank you so much for those people who have sort of waited until this point. We are going to actually start another free webinar, and that will be on the 31st of May at 8 p.m. That is going to be solely based on the UCAT. So this is a fantastic webinar, which is going to be run by both our UCAT tutors. And this is going to be covering absolutely everything you need to know about the UCAT assessment. So for anyone considering dentistry, this is an absolute must. This really is a very, very informative webinar where we'll be talking about what the UCAT is, how the UCAT is structured, how the different sections are laid out, how the marks are calculated, how every single section is worked out, tips for each section, worked examples, so much information. It's going to be, again, a really intense, really in-depth webinar led by our UCAT tutors, and it's going to be a fantastic way of gaining some really valuable knowledge. For those people who are interested, if you just hover over the screen there, you'll be able to actually use your phone to get onto the sign-up form for that particular webinar. We'll also be sending out some emails, and obviously on our socials we'll be posting. For those people who this webinar has really opened their eyes up to sort of the resources that we have, and also for those people who are interested in the book, again, we've got our sign-up form via that QR code on the right-hand side. So if you're interested in getting 50% off, we're most likely going to be running that offer till about mid-June, because we're planning to launch the book in June, at the end of June. We're just making some final changes to make it really valuable for you, because ultimately our aim here is to really provide a lot of quality and a lot of value for you guys. And we don't stop unless it's excellent. And I really do hope that you've learned something tonight, and I hope that we've inspired you to pursue a career in dentistry. And if not, if this is giving you a wake-up call that this is not for you, then hopefully we've helped with answering some questions that you may have in making that decision. If you are on Instagram, please feel free to sort of tag us, share, and sort of follow us. We're actively posting every day, and we've also got a Twitter account as well. We've received lots of questions, so we're going to go through some questions now. So these are some of the questions that we've received through our Instagram. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually ask some of our panel to help with answering some of these questions. So first question, if Fadila can answer this one. So what made you do dentistry?
So I always knew I wanted to do something where I was working with people. I'm quite a sociable person, so I knew I didn't want something that was kind of like an office job. Eventually I kind of narrowed that down to healthcare, and then, as I mentioned earlier, I did lots of work experience in loads of different places. So at a GP, in the pharmacy, I went to loads of open days and like college talks on different kind of healthcare professions. And then when I did my dental work experience, something clicked. I remember something significant was I shadowed a dentist who had an elderly person's appointment, and I witnessed 3 appointments consecutively in 3 days. And it was kind of their journey from getting their impressions taken to getting their molds made and then having their dentures fit in, and just seeing the kind of patient satisfaction that the dentist was able to provide so quickly was just really inspiring, and that kind of sealed the deal with me.
Fantastic. Pros and cons of dentistry. So how about one of our other students, Jas, if you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there's loads of pros. So to start off with, the positives is that for me personally, Peninsula lets you see your patients in first year. So my first interaction of cleaning someone's teeth was in first year. By second year, I was seeing my own patients doing fillings, and now in fourth year, I treatment plan and do everything you can think of. So that's a pro, that you're hands-on straight away. You know, you get thrown in the deep end and you really get that experience. 2 is the people. So you get to meet so many different people from so many different places, and you all have this one goal of being a dentist and have that passion. So that's amazing. And also just the whole community as a dentist and a dental student. It's something that we all are very proud of, and it makes us stand out. And having that community, you can talk to different students from different schools and still have a really good conversation about their journey and, you know, their experiences in dental school. So I really enjoy that. The cons, maybe a little bit, is sometimes it can be stressful with the amount of work you get, and if you're doing other societies or, you know, other things at university. So I play for the university netball team. It's hard to juggle that side of things. But at the same breath, it makes you stand out and you get to meet new friends. And also another negative is that you have to always remind yourself that everyone that's getting into dentistry are high achievers. And, you know, you always feel that there's competition, even though there may not be, and you need to just kind of just focus on yourself. So don't compare yourself to your peers. At the end of the day, you're all there to get your BDS and you're all there to help each other. So, you know, don't compare yourself, which I know a lot of people struggle with. But other than that, there's not really many negatives of it. That's why we do it.
Fantastic. I think I'll cover the next question. Are you thinking to specialize? If so, in what? I think this question is quite an advanced question for individuals who may be just thinking of going into dentistry. But what I would say is, for this particular question, I would urge you to sort of understand general dental practice, so the remit of a general dentist. But in addition to this, understand the different career pathways that are available once you graduate. So the GDC website has various information about specialization and the GDC specialist list. So that's a completely free resource via the GDC website. So the General Dental Council is our regulator. So I would certainly advise individuals who are interested in considering dentistry as a career to certainly look at that website, because it's got lots of useful information, and also it's got a list of the specialisms which are available within dentistry. And you'll be able to see on that list exactly what the sort of roles of each specialist is, varying from endodontist to prosthodontist to maxillofacial surgeon. So that's something that I would say. So in terms of answering that specific question specifically, what I wanted to do was sort of urge individuals to consider the career path in a broad sort of aspect, rather than just focusing on, oh, I want to be an orthodontist because I've had braces. That's obviously very admirable, but it's really important to understand the sort of nature of the dental team as well as the specialties. Okay, the next question is, what did you study at A levels? Now, for this particular question, I think we will get Haroon to have a say in this.
Sure. Like most dental students, I studied biology and chemistry because they're compulsory subjects to study. And then I studied maths and politics in addition to that. Yeah. Should I go into why I chose them, or just?
What we'll do is we'll ask that question to Bini, who's a postgrad as well.
Hi there, everyone. Yep. So in terms of A levels, similar. So I did a biology and chemistry, as they were the two essential ones at the time that I needed to do. And then for the third one, I actually did business studies. So that was just offered when I started A levels, something different that combines really, really well with dentistry itself. Obviously, you mentioned before dentistry as a business, so you need to understand how that works. I think that sets you in good stead as well to write on your personal statement.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What I'd like to say about this is a lot of people are under the sort of illusion that you do have to study maths, biology, chemistry. But actually, by reading the university's entry criteria, often it is a requirement that they do a science subject such as chemistry or biology, chemistry and biology, or chemistry and another science or maths. But actually that third subject can be left for you to sort of explore your creativity, or perhaps use it to do something that you're really, really passionate about. So For instance, for me, I actually did design technology in A level as my third A level choice, and I know that Arij did. I think she did graphics as well. So it's something that you can utilize to your advantage, and it's really useful to be able to do something like that. If you are passionate about something that you can study at A levels, such as art or design or something, drama, this is really, really useful to discuss in your personal statement. And it's also useful to discuss that interview because it gives you a little bit of a difference, and it also allows you to show your creativity. And as we've mentioned before, a lot of the lecturers today have mentioned before, that it's not just about the academics, about getting your A levels, it's also about showing how you're slightly different from everyone else, and therefore and how those differences can make you into a better dentist or a better dental student. And as a result of that, by choosing something slightly different can actually advantage you. So with our standard entry table, which will be in our book and also on our website, that also details exactly which universities require which types of A levels. But you can also access that information via the universities, which I'd urge you to do. And if you're unsure about your particular A level, then contacting universities again is really, really important. How to succeed in A levels. So this is a really, really important question, because without attaining the correct grades, this is something which can potentially prevent you from getting in. So Haroon and Raza will get you to answer these.
Yeah, so this is quite a tough question, and I can already talk all day about this, but I'll just go through the salient points. Consistency is really, really important. Right away from year 12, you need to do hard work. What does that mean? Because people just chuck around that term because they say work hard, but that doesn't really mean much. You need to look at the specification that you're going to be covering, because each of your courses will have a specification. You need to look at it, and it will basically cover everything you need to know. They can't test you anything in the exam outside of that framework. So make sure you understand it all. And if your teacher hasn't covered any bits, say you're in year 12 and you're going through a topic and your teacher hasn't covered this spec point, you can ask them, and please do that. A second really, really important thing to do is to make sure you understand the content and then proceed with memorization of content. Because if you try to memorize things without understanding it, you won't be able to do a lot of the questions that you will get asked, because since 2017 with the new A levels, they've become a lot more application based. So you need to make sure you understand the content. So do a lot of past paper questions if you can. Start early with revision. Keep on studying right from year 12. There's a concept of learning called spaced repetition, which you can probably read about if you don't know about it already. So that's why I really recommend studying from year 12. And if you do that from year 12, keep your motivation in mind from year 12 as well, because there'll be ups and downs. If you keep your motivation of why you're studying the A level, why you want to become a dentist, you will sail through. And the people that find A levels really hard are the ones that start too late. So if you start early and you keep that motivation in your mind, you're going to sail through.
Fantastic.
Yeah, spot on. I totally agree with everything Haroon said there. With A levels, it's becoming such a norm for students to get AAA, but it comes down to hard work essentially, and with the fundamentals of getting the grades, that's just the basis, and you've got to put in the hard work from start, like Haroon said, and it's mainly revolving around your time management as well. So if you know that you want to get into a career such as dentistry, it's highly competitive. Like we keep on saying, the number of places to applicants is, when you look at the figures, it's astonishing. And if you do want to step into a career like dentistry or medicine, which is going to be very competitive, then yeah, you've got to start early, know what you want, have something to motivate you. And because if you can get through A levels, and certainly it shows that you're good enough to get through dentistry as a course, and as well as keep up with the workload that will be put on you in dental school as well. So just keep on trying, use past papers, use resources that you have, and any free time that you get, you need to invest in your studies. And at the end of the day, try your best, because always hard work does eventually pay off, and just give it your best shot.
I would slightly disagree with the fact of all free time. I'd recommend spacing out your time with doing activities as well.
Yeah, of
Because
course. You've
what I
always got to
found,
have some sort of downtime and, stay up to date with your hobbies that you like doing. If you play a sport or an instrument, carry on with that. But of course, do invest some time into your education. It
I'm
will
very
help.
particular with words. Sorry, I didn't mean.
No worries. He is right with that as well. Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, and it will really improve your application as well if you show a balance.
Fantastic. So I think one of the questions which has come up quite a bit is stress and dealing with pressure and being able to manage this. And actually, this is a really, really salient point. It's something which actually sometimes is overlooked, and is not talked about quite a lot. But I think this is really quite an important topic to discuss. Now, in terms of dealing with pressure, I think we can all learn something from each other. So, Haroon, did you want to start on talking about this?
Yeah, so of course there's a huge amount of pressure, both that you put on yourself and from family. Sometimes about getting those A's, and obviously you need to reach those grades to get into university. So key things for dealing with pressure is to have a plan. If you have a set schedule to complete, and a set amount of things to do per day, and if you complete those things, then you should be happy. So you should plan your time really well by writing exactly what you want to do per day. Don't just have a day where it's just sort of roughly planned out, because when you have a roughly planned day, then you can just sort of waste your day with like whatever. So it's really important to plan your day, plan your time, and make sure you plan in that time for activities and fun, because you need that to rest. Like I found that like I'd work for like an hour and then I'd watch half an hour of television, and then I'd do it like that. So make sure you get your work done, and and keep the motivation up, as I said, because that will motivate you to go. Yeah.
Great.
Anyone else?
I think Jazz, you've got some points to talk about.
Yeah. So how I personally manage my stress is all about sports for me. Like that is my release. And I think if you find something that you enjoy and you love, whether it's from sports to baking to just playing the piano for a bit, find what you like, and don't think that, oh, because I'm not playing sports, I'm not managing my stress well. It's all individual. So just find something you enjoy and take that out. And from personal experience, the most stress I've ever experienced was when I didn't get the grades. And then I was like, oh Lord, what do I do now? And that was so much stress. I almost switched off. I almost just sat in my bed and was like, that's it, my life's over, and not responded. And that's the worst thing you could do. So to deal with that stress, you have to just compartmentalize your life. Think about your plan, as Haroon said. Make sure you have a plan, not just for your days, but your long term. Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? How do you want to overcome this obstacle? And have a good support system around you who believe in you. Because if you're there trying to help yourself by yourself, it's very hard and it's very draining. If you have people that believe in you and you believe in yourself, you can cope with that stress because you know your end goal and you have that motivation and that drive, and set your eye on your goal. And that's all you need to do, and you'll get there.
Fantastic. That is really, really useful information. And the last question that we've got from our for our Instagram is, do you need to know any dental knowledge before you sit the dentistry interview? Binny, you might want to touch upon this, and then Catherine can also answer.
Yeah, perfect, not a problem. You don't need to know any major dentistry knowledge, but I think going in with some is very, very important. Like what was mentioned before, if you have some technical terminology or you know something about dentistry when you go in there, some of the MMIs might test you on something related to that knowledge. If you have it, being able to demonstrate it there and then shows that you've done background reading or background knowledge and background work, and it's something you're passionate about because you've wanted to revise the topic. So it shows a lot more in your interviews, and it comes across a lot better. But I think they try to standardize most things in MMIs, so pretty much everyone will be on the same footing as much as they can. So if you can stand out by having extra knowledge, I think that's only going to set you in a better stead than other competitors, other people that are going into it.
Fantastic. And Catherine, do you want to share a bit of information on that?
Yeah, so obviously the course that we're doing is going to have a really good overview of everything to do with dentistry, all the kind of basics. You don't need to know the specifics, you don't need to know the ins and outs of stuff. That's all the things that you'll learn at university. But like has been said, it's just good to have an overview of stuff, especially when you go into interview. Sometimes they'll probe you on certain bits, check, see what knowledge you have. This won't necessarily be a requirement, but if you can show off that you do have quite a bit of knowledge, then they'll be like extra impressed by it, and it will just show that you've put in that bit of effort to find out some stuff.
Absolutely. I think that knowing dental knowledge, obviously that's quite a vague point, but having a very brief understanding, for instance, of maybe the basic equipment. So for instance, a mirror and a probe, what they are and how they may be utilized. But I think what can be, what I think is an overkill is sort of knowing the very, very intricates of every single stage. I think that's something that wouldn't be expected, even as a dentistry student. In your first year, you that's the time where you're going to be learning these things. But that said, I think it's important to have a broad and basic understanding of the different things that a dentist may typically do, because it's important to know those before you set up yourself in a career as a dentist. And we can answer those things throughout our course. We cover things such as dental materials, dental tools, basic things that you may pick up at dentistry work experience whilst you're not able to get that physically at the moment. And in addition to that, I think it's important to be very honest in your interview as well. I know that we're going to cover another webinar on the interviews, but I know we get quite a lot of questions about that, but it's really important to be honest and open with what you do know. And if you do start to talk about something which is quite intricate, for instance, root canal and the different K files that you use to sort of create mechanical debridement, if you start going on like a dentist, then it could lead you into a bit of a sticky situation if you were to be asked something on that and you don't know it. So I would always tread with a bit of caution and be very honest and humble in your approach when you're answering a question as well. Now, I'm just going to go through some of the questions that we have left on the screen that we have. So let's just have a little look at this. So if you do have any questions, by the way, please don't hesitate to actually place these in the chat box. We will be going through the list that we have. So the first question that I see is for the fifth backup option that you apply to, because you can only choose 4, will the personal statement be accepted by that fifth choice? So absolutely. So typically dentistry applicants will write one personal statement, and that is submitted to UCAS. And in addition to that, that same statement would be submitted to the university course that your fifth choice is. So for instance, if you've done biomedical sciences, that would also be sent to them. They fully well understand that you will be utilizing that as your fifth choice. So as a result of that, you can only have one personal statement, and that is that will be accepted by that university. So don't worry about that. The next question we have is there such a thing as talking too much in the interview because you're so passionate? So I'll open that question up to the team, if anyone wants to answer that.
Yeah, I think a few of us have just answered that on the chat, but
sorry.
Yeah, leading on from what Jazz and Vinny have said about that, obviously it's really great to show passion. That's one of the most important things in the interview, and one of the things that will really make you shine if you're able to really engage with the person you're speaking to and kind of show that you have that enthusiasm. But they also will be looking for people that have really good communication skills. They'll be wanting to check that you can answer the questions specifically and concisely, rather than just kind of trying to word vomit and say everything that you can possibly think of. So just make sure that you're aware to listen to the question, try and target it specifically, and just be aware if they're trying to take you down a different avenue, like look for body language and try listen to the interviewer so that you're giving them what they want.
Fantastic. Another question we have is, with the MMI interviews, is each station specific to a different part of the application, i.e. does each station test a different part, or is it just to allow different people to see you? So I think we should get someone who's done an MMI interview to answer that.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that. Yeah, it's a really good question. So with MMIs, what they're trying to test compared to a panel interview is different characteristics they believe are important in a dentist. So most of the stations they have are actually testing a different aspect or different characteristic of what they believe is important in dentistry, whether it's manual dexterity or communication, etc., rather than just trying to get everyone to see you, really. However, that is also a part of it. Each station, even though you're displaying a characteristic, they're also watching or looking at, is this someone that will fit into the dental school? Is it someone that they believe could be a dentist? Is it someone that, you know, has the skills that they are looking for? So really, really good question.
Thank you, Binny, for that. I think Raza has had an MMI interview as well. So would you want to just shine a bit of light?
Yeah, sure. Following on from what Binny said. So in most MMI interviews, they, you know, I believe all MMI interviews, are timed. So they place you in different sections where you have to rotate around the clinic that you're in. And each interviewer will potentially take the same approach, like have a blank face, and try and see how well you cope in a pressured situation. So they're trying to mimic some of the qualities in you from an early stage that they might be able to pick up. So if you cope well in that time, then it's more likely over the next few years you'll develop the necessary skills to do well at dental school. So yeah, you know, MMI interviews, they test different range of things. We can't necessarily disclose what each university tests individually, but the majority of the things, they are based on some of your personal statement, but some generic topics which do come up in interviews are like, you know, why do you want to study dentistry? They're based off your personal statement as well, which the admissions team will have. You know, communication, so general skills. But of course, if you do get an invitation from an interview, they will most likely send you an email containing all the details that you need to know, and maybe a list of the stations that are going to come up, and then you can start doing your research around that as well for the MMIs.
Excellent, Raza. That's really useful advice there. We've just got a poll on the screen. If you could leave some feedback, it's all anonymous. That'd be really, really, really beneficial. I know that we've run over, and it's probably Indian timekeeping, but what we'll do next time, I think we'll probably start it a little bit earlier at 7 p.m. I think if you put yes or no in the comments for 7 p.m, I think we'll make a unanimous vote as to choosing and swapping the time, because it is running on, and we've got, like I said, we've got so much information and value to share with everyone. We've just gone a little bit too hard. Okay, so one of the questions that we've got here is, would mentioning a dentistry film look good on the personal statement? So I presume that's someone who's watched a documentary or an actual film to do with dentistry. Raza, do you want to mention something about that?
If it's a genuine documentary which is credited, then yeah, but I'd definitely have it read by somebody else as well, because your initial thought might be that, oh, this will look amazing and it will make me stand out. Well, it might do, but you've just got to get the wording probably correct there and see how credible what you're trying to say, get your message across. I personally mentioned a book in my personal statement. So I read a book, it's called The Smile Stealers. And it's basically revolving around the history of dentistry. Do check that book out. And I did mention that in my personal statement because it's one of the factors which kind of allowed me to learn more about dentistry. And what the admissions team do want to see is tell them something unique. So I in my personal statement, I kind of went on about a little bit about the history of dentistry and how that fascinated me and what it made me do later on. So a quick example of that is in the Smile Stealers, there's a section where they talk about the case of the malevolent toothworm and the progression of the germ theory, and now we know them as caries, etc. So I talked about that, and I was quite fascinated with the progression of dentistry, from normal barbers doing extractions to dentistry becoming a well-recognized and respectable career. So I talked a little bit about that, and then from there I talked about subscribing to like the Oral Health Foundation. So always, whatever you say that you found out, what have you done even further to enable you to carry on learning about dentistry? So yeah, you certainly can mention the documentary, but I'd be careful with your wording and exactly what information you want to put in there. Always get it double checked. Yeah, documentaries are fine. But if
could I add something?
Yeah, sure.
In terms of books and documentaries and all these things that you can write on personal statements, the whole point of it is not just to show off of how many books you've read, how many films you've seen. The whole point of the personal statement is to reflect. So you can write any of these things, but you need to make sure that you reflect on exactly what you've gained from it. That's what they're looking for, because there's hundreds of things out there, but it's what you personally take from it and what did you benefit from it. That's what you should be writing in a personal statement for everything that you've done. There's no, it's not a listing game. Yeah.
If I may add, so I added something quite unusual to my personal statement when it comes to films and documentaries. I in fact added that I watched House MD, the TV show from early 2000s, it's an amazing show. And it seems like an absolute wild card thing to add, but as Haroon mentioned, it is all about reflecting and looking and getting an understanding from what you're referencing and linking it to real world skills and scenarios that you could face. So in my personal statement, I compared the real life day-to-day scenarios of a medical practitioner as opposed to a fanatical one, such as Dr. Gregory House. So you can add almost anything to a personal statement so long as you reflect on it and analyze it and reflect on it. They are the key things to add. If you think if there's anything you've done has a relevant skill, you can add it. Just make sure you reflect on it. That is the key part.
100%. That will certainly, it impresses the admissions team always, and they always look for some unique personal statements which always have something about them which is quite unexpected, and it does come from these type of films or documentaries or anything that you can learn and then be quite reflective upon about what that has taught you and led you to do further.
That is great. I think I believe we have covered almost actually all of the questions. If you do have any final questions, we will be just waiting for a couple of moments to allow you to type and place them in our chat. But if that's all of the questions, then I'd like to thank everyone for partaking. The last thing is, we are doing a small giveaway. So if you take a picture of the screen and tag "I want to be a dentist" and share this on your Insta story with the hashtags that I've put in the box, then we'll be selecting one individual to receive a free copy of the book when we eventually launch it at the end of June. So that'll be something that we'll send out to you by selecting at random. One question that I've just received is, I thought the fifth choice had to be a non-medicine related. Is that true? So what we'll do is, Catherine, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, sure. So basically in terms of the fifth choice, I'm not quite sure exactly how it works now, but I'm pretty sure it basically just can't be dentistry. It can't be completely non-medical related because otherwise, why would you be wanting to do something that's not kind of related to dentistry? Why would you want to be applying for like engineering or something if your other 4 choices are dentistry? I personally didn't put down a 5th choice because I was so certain that I wanted to do dentistry. But if you do want to put that down as a backup, something like biomed would recommend, or something like pharmacy, anything else that sort of will give you that pathway to get into dentistry later on if you're still certain that that's something you really want to do.
Fantastic. I think that's a great answer.
On that note, I'd recommend applying for something that you'd actually do, because a lot of people just put it as a waste choice.
Yeah, I agree with Hareen
But it is
there.
something you actually would potentially do, because dentistry is extremely competitive, and a lot of people, well, it's hard to get in a lot of the time. So
yeah, put it as something you actually want to do, because I decided I didn't want to do anything, so I didn't put anything down. Don't just put something down for the sake of it. But if you would like to do another degree to get into dentistry, or just to see what it's like, then yeah, put it down as something that you want to do.
Yeah, I have 2 people in my year. One did law and one did sports science. So it doesn't really have to be healthcare related, as long as you can reflect on it. So what traits are transferable to dentistry? So, you know, he really loved sports science at the moment, at the time, and then could transfer those into dentistry, because then he did work experience at a dental school and stuff. So it doesn't have to be medical related.
I think that's a really good point. Oh, you speak.
Yeah, carry on.
I was going to say, I think that's a really good point, Jazz, because sometimes I think you don't know exactly what you want to do in school. And sometimes if you're not quite sure what you want to do, it's best to do something that you really enjoy. Skills and be able to reflect on that. So yeah.
Yeah, do research around your 5th choice as well. Don't just put it down for the sake of it. You know, have a backup for your backup, if that makes sense. But just know that if you do decide to go into that career, know that you'll probably enjoy it more if you know what it's about, rather than just putting it down for the sake of it.
I was going to add that make sure your 5th choice is something that you'd want to do. So personally, for my 5th choice, I got an offer to do computer science, which is radically different to any form of medical profession, but it is something that I really liked and really enjoyed and would have done. So it just gave me options. It's just about what you want to do, not about what you should be doing.
Another question that we've just got in is it good to mention who inspired you to get into dentistry in the personal statement? It's a great question.
100% yes. You know, put your initial reasons. Why did you want to do dentistry? Was it somebody who inspired you? You know, what did you do? Was it your work experience? Did you see your dentist performing? You know, some sort of did you observe your dentist in the practice? So what was it that caused that trigger for you to go out and say that I want to pick dentistry as my career for the rest of my life and do it as a job as well? So it's always good. I would initially mention that in my introduction of the personal statement, so it's out of the way, and it's you know, made clear as to why my reasons for picking dentistry were what they were. And it's also a good talking point at your interview as well. If it's something that it genuinely inspires you, you won't need to rehearse it as much. It'll almost be at the tip of your tongue, and whenever you're asked that question, you'll be able to answer it. So yeah.
Along those lines, one of my friends who entered into Leeds Dental School referenced a dentist who she had seen work on and who had written a book. And turns out in their MMI interview, they ended up being interviewed by that exact same person. So they ended up getting some interesting questions from them because they had referenced them personally. A very rare opportunity, but it added a unique perspective to that application for certain.
I just wanted to add that whatever you write in your personal statement, like if it's someone who inspired you, or like Raza said, something you saw, be genuine, because they will ask you that question, and if you've lied, you'll get trapped in your own lies, or you won't show the passion, or you know, just don't lie. If you saw something, be genuine on what you saw, because they will ask you, and you just don't want to be in that situation.
And just to add, if that's okay, with your personal statements, if you're a postgrad, you can start it off differently. It doesn't have to be, you can obviously start off with what inspired you, whether it's a person or an operation or something you saw that made you do dentistry or book you read. But you can also just say what you've done in your degree or something that, if you've got 100 people's application there, it's something that's different straight away. But for everyone, mentioning courses or things like this, like I want to study dentistry, I want to be a dentist, the courses you've gone on, things you've read or researched to enhance your knowledge before you even start dentistry, to make sure it's the right choice. It's really, really good to write stuff like that down. And it's a talking point as well in interviews. They say, you know, why medicine compared to dentistry, or how do you know dentistry is right for you? Anything along those lines. These are the things you can talk back and say back to them. Just to show them you really try to get as much information as you can to make your choice. Just an informed decision. And it helps you stand out a lot more.
Just to finish off with Binny, 100% agree. And because I've been reading so many personal statements that we're including in our book as well, for examples for you guys to use and reference back to help you guide you to structure your own personal statement. What thing that I've majorly noticed in our postgraduate section of personal statements is nobody actually undermines their degree. They don't use it as a stepping stone for dentistry. However, what they do show is what they've actually learned from their degree, how it's allowed them to mature as a person, what skills they've developed over the few years that they have done their degree in their postgrad, and how that's made them a better applicant this time around applying for dentistry. So if you are a postgrad, yeah, those are some useful tips, like find something that you've actually developed, and why have you decided to, you know, give dentistry a second chance. You need to answer these questions and make it quite personal, and include that in your personal statement, because the interviewers most likely will want to know that, and they would want to know, why did you go into a different field, and then, you know, decide to invest so much time. And I think we did mention this briefly at the resit and gap year section, but if you are a resit or a gap year student, don't be disheartened, because, you know, if anything, it shows your commitment that you took a year out and you still wanted to do dentistry. So yeah, definitely give it a go. And yeah.
Excellent stuff. I think the final question of the night would be someone who's asked, I think this has been answered, but what do we do in the interview if we don't know how to answer a question or think about it without saying or oh? So I think, Catherine, you've said something on this. Yeah, so just be completely honest, like Binny said as well. Just tell the interviewer that you want a couple of seconds to think about an answer. This is so much better to actually think of a proper answer rather than just saying something quickly, because if that's the case, you're more likely to come out with a generic answer. They're more than happy to sit there for a couple of minutes whilst you put your thoughts together and think of a proper answer. And if you're really struggling, just start at the beginning and, like Binny said, go through your thought processes, and then they'll see the way you think and the kind of things you're thinking of, because some of the questions are really hard and you don't know the answer, you can't rehearse them all, but they're not expecting you to be able to answer every question perfectly. They just want to see that you have the potential to be a good dentist rather than already being the perfect candidate. I think that's very, very valid of what you just said there. Yeah, absolutely. Is it worth putting medicine-related activities on dentistry personal statement? For instance, MedView with Kings. I'm not too sure what MedView is, but I'd say it's definitely worthwhile. If you've done stuff, put it down. It will also show that you've got more experience in healthcare related things. And if it's something medicine related, you can really reflect on that and talk about why you've decided to go for dentistry rather than medicine. Like we've all said like 100 times, I think the most important thing to get out of this is that during your application, the most important thing is
to reflect on everything you've done. You could literally write about absolutely anything, and as long as you reflect on it, it will enhance your personal statement and enhance your application.
Haroon?
Just I did this. I actually wrote a medical related thing. I wrote that I did some surgery. I was invited to this day with surgeons, and I performed some surgery on some animals. And I wrote that on my personal statement. And at Bart's, it was a panel interview, and they questioned me on this. And like that was the first thing they went to when they were asking personal statement related questions. And I could actually really reflect on like why I picked the dental pathway instead of the medical pathway and exactly what happened there. So it's a really good talking point, but you have to know what you're talking about if you mention it. It's risky, but it can really pay off. So yeah.
Yeah, as long as your answer is not, oh, because I was thinking of medicine at once time and I'm still not sure, then you'll be fine. So just don't go down that path.
Also, just start drafting. But if I was applying this year, I would probably use this time in lockdown to start drafting a few of my personal statements, because it is going to take time for you to filter out the things that you eventually want to put in there and don't want to put in there. So you'll probably go back and forth quite a few times, just between your drafts and with editing, and also get a second opinion, like get your family members to read your personal statement, or your teachers if you can have access to them at this time. But yeah, do invest some time into that now. I'll potentially start thinking about it right about now.
Can I just add on to that if possible? Just based to echo what everyone said, I did grad med, which is like GAMSAT sort of side of things for medicine. When I decided I wanted dentistry, because I'd been out of education for so long, I did it more of an exam just to sort of get back into, kind of revise again more than anything. I found it really useful, and that's something I talked about in not in my personal statement, but during the MMIs, when one of the questions I had was why not medicine. I said, well, I've done this exam, I sort of looked into medicine, I've had experience in medicine, etc., etc. But I used doing the grad med and sort of the process for it as part of my discussion of why I decided dentistry as well. You don't have to put in your personal statement. If you think it helps you stand out and really gets a point across, then add it into your personal statement.
Okay, final question I think for tonight. Is it better to not include your A-levels, instead mentioning wider reading and academic things you've done outside of school? Haroon?
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. You can mention both. You just don't have. But to be honest, I would say reflecting on either of them is both equally beneficial. Yeah.
Fantastic. I hope we have answered everyone's questions. I've tried very hard to look through everyone's questions, and I think the team have tried their hardest to filter through everyone. We've received hundreds and hundreds of questions tonight, so thank you everyone for partaking. I think we've got 39 people standing. So what I would say is that please sign up for the next webinar. Nafi, who you've met, is going to be on that particular webinar, and some of us guys will be there as well, discussing the UCAT and everything you need to know for that particular assessment test. And in addition to that, what we'll be also covering is some questions. And again, we'll also then be looking to do another webinar on the BMAT and also interview questions. So we've got significant amounts of information to give you. We've all volunteered our time to help you guys, and I hope it has been useful. I think I shared the results of the poll earlier, and I think the majority said they strongly agree that this has been useful. So I think I think I echo on behalf of the team that we're really passionate about helping everyone, and in addition to that, we hope that we have helped you. The last thing I want to mention is about the bursary scheme. The bursary scheme is available to those individuals who will be eligible. So on the slide, which I have on this screen here, on the bottom left-hand side, that is the QR code to scan, and that will launch a document which will give individuals who are eligible the criteria for eligibility. And if you do have any further questions, or if we somehow miss your question, we do apologize, but send us a DM via Instagram. That's our Instagram name. And in addition to that, I'd like to thank everyone on the team as well for volunteering your time. I said to everyone it'll be about an hour, and look, it's just yeah, it's gone into about, we started at 8, so it's 2.5 hours, so I do apologize for that. But next week what we're going to do is we'll start it a little bit earlier, and hopefully we'll be a little bit more smoother with our time. But it's one of those things that we're just really passionate about it, and unfortunately you'll just have to bring your dinner plate along to your desk or wherever you're sitting and just eat at the same time if we go that long next time. But hopefully we don't. Like I said, any questions, direct them through our Instagram page. Our website is launching soon. I know that we've had hundreds of questions about that, but that is launching very soon. And our book is coming out very, very soon as well. That will likely be at the end of June. Webinar recordings will be sent out, and that will be sent out to individuals via email. Someone's just messing around now. Someone's pointed to the screen. I don't know who that is, but I think people have had enough of my voice. So what we'll do is I think we'll end the webinar there. But thank you very much. And like I said, any questions, direct into our Instagram page, and make sure we'll see you hopefully on the next webinar.